Hello, welcome to Business Corner. I'm Suzanne Doolan, the founder of SADHANA, and my guest today is Danielle Joseph. And Danielle, can you tell a little bit about your businesses?
Of course. So I'm Danielle Joseph. I am primarily a brand stylist and web and graphic designer. So my company is called Function Creative Co. And I help business owners and entrepreneurs and individuals with creating a visual brand, bringing their vision to life for their business, bringing like life into their communication styles, their website, that kind of thing. And I also have a little side project as well, or kind of a under my umbrella side brand called Your Yoga Brand. And it focuses on helping support yoga teachers around building a more sustainable business, a sustainable brand. I know the tendency towards those kinds of things can be, there's some hesitations that come up for people around these types of things. And I found it really kind of rewarding for me and also helpful for my community of yoga teachers to be able to support them on issues and challenges and things that come with being a yoga teacher and trying to also support ourselves. So
I'm going to just jump right in on
yeah.
this because I think exactly what you're talking about is something I see so much that, you sit there and you say, like, I'm helping people with their branding. And I see it a lot in the yoga teacher discussions that, well, everybody has to brand themselves these days. And, not so long ago, people were in the ashrams being supported by donations, and they didn't charge anything. And so, it's people just find it like totally offensive that they should have to like market and brand themselves. And I think the terms themselves are just a turn off to a lot of people who don't come from, a corporate background and don't have a relationship to these words. So I want you to talk just about when you say like you help people to brand, and then you said you work with colors, and I think that's what I kind of think about with branding is like a logo and color. Well, can you talk a little more about like why is it important to have a brand? What does that mean exactly to have a brand?
Yeah, there's so much.
Are you turning us into the Coca-Cola of yoga?
Yes, no, not even the Lululemon of the yoga world. We're not trying to kind of make the goal with that kind of thing. And what I do is not to turn your, whether you want to call it your business or turn your yoga practice, your teaching practice into a corporation or some, bureaucratic, terrible thing that people think about. That's definitely not the goal. And that's the biggest kind of, I guess the hesitation does come from from the word branding, and even business has like its own feelings, that come along with it. So with yoga teachers, I have found this big range in the types of like where you're at in terms of teaching yoga and whether it is your business. Because if we're asking this to support us, financially as a career, then that's just it. We need to have it support us financially for a career. And if you're choosing to not have it financially support you and you're choosing to teach alongside something else that is financially supporting you, then that's also on the spectrum of the teachers that I work with. So there's so many different kind of categories that we all fall into along this kind of spectrum. And when it comes to branding, it's not all about just creating a logo or, like I said, a corporate business around your teaching yoga. It's really about it's more of a kind of introspective journey on what being a yoga teacher as a business means for you and what that's going to look like in order to serve you, in order to be financially sustainable, in order to find the students that you want to be working with, and in order to find the opportunities or create the opportunities that you want around teaching yoga. So it's all about positioning. How do you want your yoga teaching business to look like? Do you want it to be a full-time business? Do you want it to be a part-time business? Do you really enjoy working with maybe the elderly people and helping with kind of physical ailments? Or do you really love working with kids who, need a bit of help focusing or, slowing down? Or there's so many different types of people and things we can be doing in yoga. And there's so many different styles we can be teaching. And really finding your brand or going through that process of building a business is just a journey of figuring out what's going to work best for you and the lifestyle you want to create.
I started building my business 2 years ago when I got into my master's program. I just completed my master's in engineering management, which is kind of an MBA type of program, but more specifically for engineering and software development. And I've been shocked as I've gone through the process of starting my business, what a personal journey it has been to discover all of my hang-ups about money, all my hang-ups about who I am, and then also how fun it has been to get all these ideas that have been rambling around in my head for so long, my little dreams of what I would do, and actually start putting them, trying to put them into words and explain it to people. It's like, oh wow, maybe if I started talking to people about my dreams, I might find that somebody's interested in actually hearing that.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And when that's just it too. It is just such a journey, and it's ongoing. It's not just something that, even with my my branding and design clients, like it doesn't just stop when, I create their brand and their website. It's always evolving. It's always changing, because next year you're going to be a different person, and you're going to have different things that are important to you in your business or in your practice or things like that than now. So it's always changing. And even just like you said, like to get it out and go through that process. I've had so many clients that they're very pleased to go through the visual and getting things brought to life process, because it's tangible. It's something that you can see and it's mapped out. But
you design their websites for them.
Yeah, websites, logos, style guides. Like I create the whole kind of brand visual. So it goes beyond the logo. It's the colors, it's the fonts, it's your image style, it's how you're going to brand your social media, it's the patterns, the images, like all of these things in a package. And they're all very happy and pleased with that, and they're very excited when they get to that point. But they're all always so surprised by how rewarding and how much value they get out of just the beginning foundational process that I walk them through, of just like getting those thoughts on paper, like you just said, like writing down what's important to you. What are your dreams for your life? What are your dreams for your business? How do you want to make money? Who do you want to be talking to on a daily basis? And getting all of that out is just there's something to be said about getting it from your brain to life and putting it out there. And when you do put it out there, it's amazing with what comes back, because nothing can come back to you if you don't put it out. So,
exactly.
No one's a mind reader, and it's just amazing by how much you can like find your tribe and find people who do resonate or want to be hanging around you because they have the same goals, or maybe they want to learn the same things. And so just putting it out and going through that process of like introspection and figuring out just plain and simple who you are as a yoga teacher is a huge part of the whole building a brand, building a business process.
I had, in my lifetime, my family has many friends who are very artistic, and we happen to have a couple of close family friends who I have grown up with, people that would come back every Christmas and talk with us, who are quite prominent artists. One of them is one of the very top glass blowers in the world, and one of them is he's a cartoonist, and he has actually made his living as a cartoonist, and he's very successful at it, which there's a lot of people who want to do that, and there's not a lot of people who are successful at it. And he's in a very specific niche of he has a gay character, he's a gay man, and so, it's like he's sort of like, wow, made a living in this super specific niche. But what was interesting is watching as a child, watching these people who were good artists kind of hit that point where they embraced the marketing, and then they started to actually blossom, not only in the recognition that they got, but also in their work. Because as they started to engage with an audience, then it was like they started to really become realized. And what I see is a lot of teachers have, because a lot of people I work with have been teaching for many, many years, and they love it, but they haven't really marketed themselves or found their audience. And what I see is it makes them sad and it makes them sick. They're not finding.
burnt out and just
need to teach.
Yeah. I have seen it so much too in the yoga teacher community of just the drive and the passion is there to just serve people and help people and teach. But when you kind of try and do all of the things, or you ask too much of this, or you're feeling lost, like you do end up getting burnt out, resentful almost of just this, like, how am I giving all of this? And just like, it's not supporting me. So yeah, that's like a lot of what this process and focusing on stuff like that can do, and just really kind of honing in on what you want. Again, I'm very much in both of my audiences, and all of the things that I do in my businesses are like blending this lifestyle and business thing, because they go together. If you're a yoga teacher, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, your business is your life, and your life can become your business. And so it's about designing both.
I think a lot of yoga teachers don't give themselves enough credit, because I think that actually a lot of yoga teachers are drawn to the creative aspect of business. Many people that I know have actually tried to, they have a website and they're interested in that. If they tell me like, oh, I'd really like to learn how to build websites, like that's kind of fun, they maybe have a logo, they maybe have little stickers that they put on products that they sell, or business cards, but there's so much more to it. But it's like they don't recognize how much they are kind of interested in the business side of it. Just that there's so much to learn, and they're not even quite sure where to start.
Yeah, there's so much to learn, because no matter what field you kind of end up in, even me as a designer and as a yoga teacher, or someone who goes through and, becomes a massage therapist, or someone who goes through and becomes a naturopath, like there's this skill set and this practice that we've all been taught. Like we all can be now certified as teachers, and we can go out and teach a class, but there's this whole other side to things that if you want to make a living and build this as your focus for financially supporting you in your life, then it's a business, and you have to know how to run a business. And there's so much that comes along with that, because as business owners, and that means as yoga teachers, we're our own accountants, we're our own marketers, we're our own social media managers, we're our own, admin, we're our own secretaries and receptionists, and we're doing everything. So there's this whole other side to, like, when you're becoming a yoga teacher, you're not just becoming a yoga teacher. If you want to build a life around that, you're becoming.
And I actually want to insert something important about that point about you are the admin, you are this, because in my experience, there are many yoga teachers who are not recognizing that they are. Martha Stewart wrote a book after she got out of prison that was advice on how to start a business, because a lot of people in prison came up to her and said, wow, you're a successful business person. How'd you do that? And she actually wrote this really lovely book when she got out of prison, which totally changed my mind about Martha Stewart, because I was like, that's so cool that she did that. She had this thing where she talked about, she said, you have to love every aspect of your business. And she took as an example shipping. And she said, shipping's very important to my business. And so, even though she's a creative person, and we all know her as this creative person, she goes in and she learns about the shipping, because it's very important that her products be delivered well. And she's like, you have to love all the aspects. And I see a lot of teachers who sort of want to put blinders on about the money. And I feel like then they end up being not following the yoga values, because they're not recognizing that, in fact, they are in business. So then they unintentionally do things that are harmful. Now they're not being, following ahimsa. They unintentionally do things that are not ethical. And they're not, it's not because they're mean, because they're being thoughtless. And I think yoga teaches us to be mindful and thoughtful, and that in order for us to truly, as teachers, be leaders, that we need to recognize that, yes, we are in business, whether we want to be or not, and that we need to do all of the pieces of our business well in order to demonstrate to people what it truly means to be a yogi.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is just recognizing that, and just also determining what role you want, being a yogi entrepreneur, being a yoga teacher, however you want to say it, what role do you want that to play in the life that you want to design for yourself? So if you want to go out and you want to be a yoga teacher and that's what you want to do full time because you love it and you love helping people and sharing this tool, then that's amazing. And it's just important then to recognize that you're asking this to support you. So you are then in turn running a business. And that means that there are things you have to kind of focus on. And there are things that, though might be uncomfortable, that we do need to step up and ask then for this to financially support us. We need to feel, I mean, the end of the day, the reality is that we live in a world where bills have to be paid and we have to buy food and support ourselves and give ourselves shelter. And it's just, that's the reality of it. Money and energy has to be exchanged for that.
I think also there's sort of, there's another flip side to it too, which is not just that, oh, we need to pay our bills, which of course we do, but also as yoga teachers, the way that we pay our bills is by being supported by our community. And we need to give our community the opportunity to see that we are willing to receive their gratitude. And I think that many people are, they want to stay in control by only giving. As long as you're giving it away for free, you don't have to react to people, and you don't have to be, you're not at their mercy in a way. You know? Like, you have to trust that your community appreciates what you do, and that you're serving them, and that they're actually going to give it back to you.
Exactly. And that, I think, as yoga teachers too, and as people who practice yoga and all of these things that we're taught and that we try and practice in our day-to-day life, like, that is, by only giving, you are on a sure path to burnout and resentment. You have to be open to receiving as well, because it's got to be a balance. And I tell yoga teachers all the time who are hung up on the financial aspect of building a business around this, or the financial aspect of having a yoga career, that two things. Number one, you can be only of better service if you are feeling fulfilled. And by feeling fulfilled, you need to have a balance between the give and the take. You have to have that exchange of energy, because if you're constantly giving energy, you're going to be burnt out and therefore not of any service to anyone. It will come across, it becomes inauthentic, it becomes resentful, it becomes a means to an end even, or just, what is your purpose? And it kind of throws people off. And yeah, when you're in balance with that, you are just way more of present. You're way more there. You're way more there to support your community. And when you're feeling like you are also being fulfilled, you are also being kind of, you have the exchange flowing, and that's what feels good for us, I think. And I think by, I don't want to say, but by devaluing kind of what you're doing too for people, it's just not helping those people that are coming. So there is a complete balance, because I tell people too, if you have hangups about charging people a certain amount, or that feels something to you, there are so many other ways to support our community in different, different ways to make it accessible to people, because I'm all for making yoga accessible. I don't think it's just for people who can afford to go to a yoga class, but at the same time, if you're asking this to support you financially, then you need to have that flow, and you can make that up in things like karma classes or volunteering or those kinds of things in some other way.
And I've learned, a couple of things. Like, first of all, this whole thing about, your business serves, who does your business serve, that people kind of talk about in like marketing lingo or business lingo. As I've gone through learning about business, I've learned that, like, no, really, it's who do you serve? And that has become very meaningful to me, that I really have learned who am I supposed to serve. It has really been a journey to discover that the people who want to hear my message, they weren't the people that I thought they would be. And I, how could I actually do that good work when I didn't even know who I was supposed to for?
Yeah. It is about finding the people who are going to resonate with you, because I mean, even any yoga class that we've all been to, there's teachers that we love and we want to keep going back to, and there's teachers they're like, not totally for me. And that's fine. Like, there's no offense, or it shouldn't be taken personal if, completely about putting your message out the way that who you are as a teacher, being true to who you are, and finding this, if we want to call it a brand, or finding your internal kind of the journey that you want to take as a yoga teacher. And then once you, like we said at the beginning, once you put that out into the world, that's when things can start happening for you, because until you put it out into the world, you're just sitting there stagnant with it all in your brain, and it's taking up mental space. And it just, if you want action, it needs to be kind of put out there. And so some people, the common question is, do I need to niche down, and do I need to only work, with kids, or do I only need to work with teenagers, or do I only need to work with females or males, or whatever the case may be? Is that something that I have to do in order to be successful? No, I don't believe that.
Really? That's cool. That's cool to hear.
Yeah, I don't believe that it's just you need to figure out this one person prototype that you need to work with. It's about who is going to resonate with your style, who's going to resonate with your tones, who's going to resonate with the just what you're putting out, your message, your overall position, your overall you kind of, and that's hard to find out right away. But when we start going through this process and we start putting these things out, like we said, or going through that journey and figuring out what those things are for us, then you'll start to see a certain type of person, or you'll start to see the people who want to be, signing up for your email list to come to all of your workshops and seeking you out for all of your classes. And then if you go to those classes, I'm sure if you look around with those yoga teachers, if you go to those classes to that teacher that you absolutely adore and love, I'm sure you'll find some people in the room that are going to be, people that you'll easily connect with, but you're going to see a lot of different people. You're not going to go to a class and just see all of this one type of person who all makes $50,000 a year, who all have 2 children. They all have just 2 children, and they spend their time after work. Yeah. Like there's not a cutout. It's not that's not going to be helpful. It's just more about finding the people who are going to resonate with you. Because if you're a really playful, bubbly teacher, and you like to play music in your class, that's awesome. And someone's going to really love that. And then there's someone that's going to go to that class and say, that's just not what I want to be doing right now. And then there's another class where you're going to be doing meditation, and there's going to be spirituality, and it's going to be grounding. And someone's going to go and love that. And someone's going to go and be like, are we moving today? What are, like it's not for every person. So it's not a cutout. But it's just about finding the people who are going to just love coming to your classes, or seeking you out, or coming to your workshops and chatting. And
what have you found, as far as like, how are people actually looking for yoga teachers these days? Like, I know that you help people build websites, and people are looking for their customers. I mean, are they like, what have you learned in this process about how actually people these days are looking for a teacher and what they're looking for?
I think it depends on what, like you said, like what they're looking for. And I think that if you're someone who's looking to go to a class is probably going to go a couple of avenues. They're either going to go online and they're going to do a yoga search for yoga studios, which if that's the experience that they want, then that's what they'll start to look up. If there's someone who wants like a private teacher to come in, then, they'll look up, I'm sure, private yoga teacher in their city or their town. But the go-to probably for someone who just wants to go to a yoga class is going to be that they're going to look up yoga studios in their area on Google Maps, on Google, on whatever the case may be. The second avenue being that if they know someone in that city or that town, they're going to ask other people. And that word of mouth thing is a huge factor still for anyone finding new people. We trust people that we know have had experiences with other businesses or things like that.
When I first moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, there's a teacher, she's in the group, Heather, and everywhere I went, I would say, oh yeah, I teach yoga, and people would say, do you know Heather?
Yeah.
This is crazy, because there were other yoga teachers in the town, but everybody knew Heather.
Yes, like this, it becomes a word of mouth thing, and that is just a huge factor. The bottom line is that this whole building a brand thing that, some people might think is just a logo is so much more than that. You talked about the packaging, the shipping aspect of, like, that's a brand experience. Someone who receives a product from Martha Stewart and has it shipped to her, and, she's packaged it and she's branded it and put personal touch in it, maybe like a little note or a postcard, that's a brand experience. And someone going to a yoga class, that's a brand experience. And so if they're having a good brand experience and they're connecting with that yoga teacher, that's an experience they're going to go and share.
Well, and also as a teacher, having that idea of your brand, it also helps you to make decisions that, you know, are consistent. Like, for example, for me, I have, you know, my brand is sophisticated and excellence. And so I made a decision as I was playing around with like getting on camera that, you know, I always wanted to like have some makeup on and, you know, look nice, because it wasn't really part of my image that I wanted to give out. Like, I've seen people who come on Facebook Live and they're like, you know, I just got out of the shower. I'm a recluse. And it's like, screw that.
Yeah. It's just different brand experiences. And this is so often rooted. This is why, you know, during this process too, what I always would say to people and my clients is that we're not trying to shape you to a brand. We're trying to shape a brand to you. So it's often just who you are. And
exactly. That was kind of, I was like, I don't really like being like that. Like, to me, that's not representative of somebody who wants to be presenting that they've achieved something of excellence, that they come on and they haven't given any thought to their appearance.
Yeah, exactly.
But I played around with it, and then I kind of realized that doesn't. You know, having that brand, it's weird because I don't personally like the term that much, but it does help you, I guess, to say, you know, really, who am I?
Yep. Exactly. It really is. And that's what I keep saying in my yoga community too, is that let's just swap out. Like, if you were to ask me in this context to define what the branding process is, the definition of the branding process particularly for us yoga teachers is to define and figure out, and through an internal and introspective process, who we are as yoga teachers. That's it.
Be able to communicate it.
And be able to communicate it.
The big part is, you know, that's why you have a website, to communicate to people who you are.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing about, like, you know, like with what you do, like, well, what is the color blue, you know, like say to people emotionally when they hit your website, like, does that communicate to them who you are and what you teach?
Yeah. It's a big balancing game too. Like, when I work with my actual clients through my design company, I often will remind them throughout the whole process that we're figuring out who you are as a business or as an entrepreneur, or as a yoga teacher, whoever the client may be at that point. We're figuring out who you are and how you want your business to be shaped around your life. How do you want this to integrate? How do you want this to look? So we're figuring all of that out, but then we're also balancing it with who you're talking to and the kind of people you want to be working with. And so though you may really just love the color yellow, is that going to work best for what you're trying to communicate? Like, let's break that down as well.
Also, like, you know, what I found too with that thing about communicating with people is that, you know, we have a thing that maybe we want to teach, or I have a thing that I want to teach, but then the person who might be attracted to me, they may have something that they think they want. Like, a good example of this is that I may want to teach people like how to truly love themselves, but the person who needs to learn that lesson may be thinking, I need to get skinny. Right? And if you're not talking about getting skinny, they're never going to talk. They'll never come to your class. And you have to figure out a way to talk to that need, that the thing they think they need, and talk about it in a way that is appealing to them and also in your, you know, like,
both best interests.
Something authentic, not like, oh, I sell diet pills.
You
know, some way to talk about it
that
somehow communicates the deeper thing that you have. And then once they get disappointed and find being skinny isn't love, you know, that you were there like
supporting.
And they're like, what? I thought I was going to get skinny.
I think as yoga teachers, there's a lot of that happens. It's like, it's almost like we will like seduce the student into like, you know, yoga is great for these benefits. And then it becomes so much more for people that you get hooked. And it's just like pulling back the layers deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're like, all of a sudden, you know, you went to a hot yoga studio to start doing hot yoga to bring some exercise into your life, and all of a sudden you're off on a spiritual retreat, and you're like, how did I end up here? But,
well, and also I love reading the stories about sort of the very sophisticated teachers that are out there now. And sometimes they'll talk about, you know, how did they get started? And they'll be like, I pulled this weird book off my dad's book.
Yes.
You know, I wanted to learn how to do a handstand. And it's like, we forget that the reason people get attracted is for some really dumb reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, we started off one way and
like appeal to those, you know, things that people, that just sort of entices them to start, because, you know, it's my teacher Eric says, you know, yoga works. Mm-hmm. So like he's in LA and everybody there is all into working out, and he's like, they come to my class and I work them out. Mm-hmm. They're in LA and that's what they need. But he's like, but yoga works. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
you know, like
it does what it has to do for every person, I think, and based on what they need. But yeah, it's true, and they all start. And it's kind of the same thing for yoga teachers too. Like we all start on one path, and we all end up kind of trying everything and going. There's different teacher trainings, and there's different specializations you can take, and that's another reason why it's. I don't always like to put people into like a cookie cutter structure when it comes to this building of, you know, building your life as a yoga teacher. It's not to be limited, because who knows, you know, in 5 years from now, you may have taken a prenatal yoga class and a kid's yoga teacher training, and that's now what you love to teach. So it's just leaving room for kind of like the evolution of where things will go as well.
Yeah. And for you to take your students along the journey with you. Yeah. Well, I think that this is probably sort of a good place to wrap up, but before we do, I would like you to tell everybody who's watching this on the replay how they can find you, and so they can also see an example of a great brand.
Yes. Yes.
And also how they can work with you if they were interested in these things. And also I just want to say, like, thank you so much, because it was really interesting to learn about what you do.
Well, I love talking about this kind of stuff. I'm very passionate about all of this thing. And I like to kind of break this stigma around just it being sticky and gross to run a business, and you know, this branding stuff that has gotten such a bad rap, that I want to kind of put an end to that. But anyone can find
and
me.
Also, one of the things I've been trying to explain to people is that there are people who love all the things that you hate about business. You love yoga. Yes, exactly. I found like my tax lady, the woman who does my taxes, she talks about taxes the way you talk about branding.
I know. So there's people out there that
you're not alone. There are people out there who would not only want to help you, but they're so passionate about it. It's fun to work with them.
Yes, and when we get to that point, and also in building a business where we are ready to kind of, you know, outsource some things and get help from people who are specialized, there's just nothing better, because it's, even for me, like I recently hired a brand photographer, and you know what, I've got a good camera and I've got a good setup and I've got lights, but I'm like, you know what, this is not my forte. This is not what someone does this every day for a living and loves it. So like, I'm going to pay you to do it and do a way better job at it. But yeah, so it just.
So anyway, we got off on a tangent.
Yeah.
But, so now please tell us your website, and Facebook group, and
so my design company is over at hellofunction.com, and then I've also got the branch off, which is youryogabrand.com. So that's, both of those websites have lots of different free resources for yoga teachers to kind of dive into sort of just maneuvering certain parts of this. yogabrand.com. Yeah. And so there's lots of resources there, and on my design site, blog posts and all of that. And then I've also got the Facebook group, which is called Build Your Brand, a yoga teachers community. And there's always, you know, lots of discussions happening in there and things like that. And then if there are certain resources that I launch, I usually post them in there and chat and communicate that way. Because I don't have actually a blog for this specific audience, my yoga teachers. So that's kind of my platform to connect with them. And yeah, that's where I can be found. Everything's kind of on there, my packages and all that.
Facebook group, and it's nice. And you're great at keeping a daily, I love your daily posts that you put in and the
Yeah,
conversations. And it's sort of like, if you're interested, sort of intrigued with the idea of branding, but you don't want to like overload your brain.
Yes.
You get little morsels, you know,
Yes.
and you kind of see the little conversations in it, and it's not like, you know, it's not like sitting down and reading like a whole business manual on branding. It's just sort of like, you know,
and it's a nice place for people to be able to ask, you know, they'll ask one-off questions about, you know, what does this mean? What can I do for this? And it's just a nice way for everyone to kind of support each other around the challenges and things that come along with running a business.
And then if I were to, you know, work with you, what would that experience be like, where I would, you know, pick up the phone and call you, and then what do you do? Do you have like packages?
Yeah, so I have, I'm actually currently reworking all of my design packages into 3 different specific packages, but it's primarily brand styling and web design. So it's working together. We start with like a consultation, and we work through the whole process together, getting through all of that introspective work, that foundational work, and then I kind of take it from there to design the logo, the color palettes, the whole brand style of everything that's going to happen and when you're putting things out visually. And then your website design as well, if that's part of what you're working on. So that's how I work with my design clients and things like that. And then with the Your Yoga brand, I also have like an online format workshop for just specifically for yoga teachers to work through the process kind of on their own at really it was made to be a more accessible price point if you're ready to take it on yourself and DIY.
DIY option.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It is a DIY, and it's really, I think, a really good option for people who are particularly maybe just dabbling in this now and aren't ready to fully invest in, you know, hiring someone like me to do the whole experience for them. That's a really that's the option I wanted to give to people who were not quite sure yet.
Yeah, sometimes I find that I learn about things in business, and then I learn enough to know, like, that is not a thing I want to spend.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? If you don't have time to invest, you've got to have money to invest. And if you don't have money to invest, then have some time and learn it. And you can get some really good DIY things out for sure if you're just starting.
And just as long also as people are talking about like investing in your business, because I've been starting up this year, and that always sort of scared me. And it really, there are also always people who are starting up their own little businesses. And if you're willing to like be really nice to people and be very flexible around the fact that they also have a day job, and sometimes you can find people who are wonderful and very knowledgeable, but just, you know, they're not quite there yet as far as like being super professional and polished, and they're still kind of working it all out. And if you have time, you don't always have to have money to people that can give you very good support.
Yeah, completely. There's lots of different ways that you can invest in your business, and it can be through time, it can be through money, it can be through exchange, or you know, anything like that. And it's just about investing some kind of energy into it for it to grow.
You're in a place where you've sort of, you know, you've established your business, and you know what it is, and you have your prices, and, you know, ultimately we want to get there to where we're clear in communicating these things, how people work with us. But at first, it's a process. And that's not where you
yeah, I mean, I'm 3 years into my business now. So I've got 3 years behind me of kind of that evolution process, and things still always do change. I'm always kind of reassessing and tweaking. And, you know, I'm right now even in the middle of streamlining packages because I've realized, you know what, my audience needs support around you're always kind of tweaking things. So it's an ongoing process. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Danielle.
No problem.
I appreciated getting today. I'm going to end the recording now. So everybody, by the way, if you've been watching on YouTube, I am from Sadhana. You can go to Sadhana Catalog, SADHANA catalog.com. We also have a Facebook group, which is Sadhana Community, SADHANA Community. So if you put that in, that's how you find the Facebook group. And you can also, on the Sadhana Catalog website, you can join the mailing list, and you'll get mailings from me, and that's the best way to stay in touch with me. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll put links down in the description on YouTube, so check the description for all those links that we mentioned in here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay, I'm going to end the recording.